October 7th, 2022, the Goffstown Select Board. Would you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have the,
Would you start off with a roll call for?
oh, that's right. We'll do a roll call. We have Selectman Lemay participating by phone. Mark, you here?
Yes, sir.
Jim?
Jim Craig here.
Myself, Peter Georgiantis.
Kelly Boyer.
Collis Adams.
Okay. So again, we'll start off with the 9/26/22 public and non-public minutes.
I'll make a motion, we approve the 9/26/2022 public and non-public minutes as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All votes tonight will be a roll call vote. Mark?
Yes, sir.
Jim?
Yes.
Myself, say yes.
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 Okay. I don't see any announcements.
No.
Okay. We'll start off with till we have the public comment at 5:35, so.
You want to start with Scott, or do you?
Sure, but it's gonna be in a couple of minutes, I gotta do public, I don't see anybody here, so.
Yeah.
I mean, we wanna do it now, or need to wait?
No, I would, if anyone comes in, you could always interrupt
Okay.
Scott, but.
Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. Scott?
Thank you. How are you all tonight?
Good.
Good, how are you?
Good. So again, thank you for letting me come in to see you guys and ladies.
Just for the record, to make sure everybody knows, this is Scott Bartlett, our town assessor. Go ahead, Scott, I'm sorry.
Oh, I wanted you to bring you up to date on what's going to be happening in assessing. As I'm sure you know, we are required to value properties at least every 5 years. Last time we did an update was 2018. So we are required by law and by Constitution to do an update next year. I haven't really started yet, other than looking at some preliminary analysis. But I can tell you right now, we are seeing an unprecedented market. Property values have increased at a rate that I had never seen before. I've been doing this for 35 years, and I have seen increases in value, I've seen decreases in value, but the changes we've seen over the last 5 years are historical. We've seen a doubling of property values in about 6 years, which is, we need to reflect when we do the updates for 2023. So, anytime you do an update, there's uncertainty, there's fear of the public. When you say to the public that we're going to be seeing increases in assessments of 50 to 60%, the first reaction is, oh my goodness, property value or taxes are going up by 50, 60%. That's not happening. It will not happen. We are going to see a shift from commercial industrial to residential. Commercial industrial properties have increased, but they haven't increased as much as residential properties. So you are going to see a shift. Because we don't have a huge commercial industrial base, that shift is not going to be as large as it is in some other towns. I've been talking to some other assessors where they have 30 to 40% of their base is commercial, and these shifts are hurt a lot. We're not going to see that type of a shift. Property values or taxes will go up for the residential section, but we're talking probably a couple percentage points. Again, I can't really talk numbers right now because I haven't gone that deep into the analysis. Just giving you some general information at the time. Couple things that we need to do to get ready for this. The first would be the elderly exemption. We'll need to increase that amount at the town meeting. Reason for that, as I explained in my letter, is that as property values go up, you have to increase your elderly exemption amounts by the same percentage so that you're not hurting the elderly because of the update. We have never touched the blind exemption. The blind exemption has been $15,000 since I've been here. We didn't do that last time, so I do suggest we might want to take a look at that as well. I also, in my letter, mentioned a consideration of the veterans' tax credits. The law changed a couple of years ago. It used to be that the maximum was $500 for the veterans credit and $2,000 for the veteran disability credit. That's increased to $750 for the veteran credit and $4,000. Those are the maximums now. Now, last year we did have a warrant article that asked us, the town, to increase the disability exemption or credit, sorry, to $4,000. That was defeated. So I'm just bringing it to your attention. I'm going to leave it up to you, but you may want to consider a slight increase. You know, maybe not to the maximum, but something to consider. Let's see, what else do I want to touch on? So I did give you a copy of a draft letter, and I'm asking you to consider this for two different ways that we start to put this out to the public. One way would be to put it in the tax bill that's coming out in October. I have done that before on the first tax bill, and I do plan to do that, or make the recommendation that we do it on the first tax bill in 2023, letting people know where they can find out about their updated assessments. But it also might be a good idea to put this in the second tax bill that's coming in October. Another way we could do this is to start to put information on the web page and put this on the web page. Don't need a decision today. You know, when we get to the point that we're going to be sending out the tax bills, that's when I'm going to need you to let me know which way you want to go. Do we put this in the tax bill, or do we put it on the web page? Either way would be fine, I think. One of the things I found with the tax bills is a lot of people do not open them because they're escrowed. And I've talked to a lot of people who said, well, we put a letter in your tax bill. Oh, I don't open my tax bill, but... And we may want to do both. Put it in the tax bill and put it on the web.
Well, it doesn't cost anything to put it on a website, so I would think we would just automatically do that anyway. And is there, what's the cost, what did they figure the cost is to stuff the envelopes with the letter?
It's about $2,500, I think, last time we did it. Yeah, I don't have the exact number. I can get that for you.
I'm just curious, you know.
Yeah, because we did it in 2018 on the first tax bill, and I can ask Mailways what it would be.
No, we should do that.
We can have that for you, we can have that number for you when we set the tax rate.
Yeah, okay.
So that's really all I wanted to say. I would like to meet with you periodically as I progress in this process to keep you up to date of what's going on. At this point, if there's any questions or...
Call us?
No, my only comment is, yeah, notify early, notify often.
No. You all set, Kelly?
All set?
Good?
Are the properties still going up at the rate they were, where people are paying more than the asking price?
Yes.
They're still doing that, okay.
Yes. You know, I mean, when I saw that the mortgage interest rates go up, I was hoping that things would start to settle, and I think they will.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it yet.
A friend of mine who's a real estate agent says that the inventory is a little bit more than it's been in the past, so that means there may be slowing down.
Yep.
But I know two of the properties near me sold, and I couldn't believe the prices they sold at.
Crazy.
Unbelievable.
Anybody else got anything for Scott? Thanks for keeping us up to date, Scott. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Derek, why don't you jump into it?
Yeah, so as we continue on in your packet, you have the committee meeting schedule. Just a reminder, Monday, Columbus Day holiday, Town Hall is closed. The library is open for regular hours though on Monday. Tuesday, the transfer station is closed in observance of Columbus Day. Trash and recycling will remain on schedule next week. At 6 p.m. on Tuesday, Sewer Commission in this room.
I got it.
Thursday, 7 p.m. Planning Board.
Yes.
The following week of October 17th, the Budget Committee has a special meeting at 6 PM here to consider volunteer applications.
Yep. be there.
Tuesday, 6 PM, this will be the joint Select Board Budget Committee, the first night of budget presentations on the town side. This is at the Goffstown High School Media Center. And then on Wednesday, Library Trustees at 6:30 at the Public Library.
I'll be there.
And 7 PM Parks and Rec Commission at Parks and Rec Center.
Pete, you got
Pete,
that
are
one?
you good with that one?
I'm thinking, I'm looking at this. I'm supposed to be out of town next week, but I'll have to change things around. That's fine.
This is 2 weeks.
No, I'm looking
Oh,
at.
that week,
I'm
okay.
looking at the 17th. I'm supposed to be out of town,
Okay.
up in, teaching a class up in Bangor. I don't know if I can change it, so you may have to handle that one.
I'll be at library that
Oh,
night.
No, I'm talking Tuesday.
Oh, that's fine. I'll be there
Tuesday the
anyways.
17th.
Yeah.
You'll be there anyway.
I will.
Okay. Yeah,
If you
I'll
can just
find
let
out.
us know
Yeah, I
on the
will.
Parks and Rec, we'll get somebody to cover. Your next page, you have your consent agenda. You have employee status report for a new hire, DPW truck driver. You have an application for a driveway permit. This is for development off of Tatro Drive, map 5, lot 54. This is to modify the existing driveway permit that was granted to the town for Tatro Drive. You have a warrant for the 2022 New Hampshire general election. There was a change in form. The state attorney, the state Secretary of State's office changed the form. You had already signed this, but they needed some additional language. You have event permits for Maple Ave Trunk or Treat, Saturday, October 29th from 2 to 4. Maple Ave Halloween Parade on October 31st down here in the village. You have the Bartlett Elementary School Halloween Parade over in Pinardville by Bartlett School on October 31st. And then you have a 2023 election ballot for the New Hampshire Association of Assessing Officials for the chairman to fill out.
The one I just gotta put an X in, right?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
Any discussion? Mark, are you all set?
Yes, sir, all set.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, call it Mark first.
Yes, sir.
Jim?
Yes.
Myself, yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. At your next page, you have a memo from the DPW director on the Diesel Emission Reduction Act grant. The town was awarded for the electric Packer. And he's got all the details there and his recommendation.
Anybody got anything on? I'm not gonna vote for it because it's, I don't see why we have to be a guinea pig on this.
The recommendation is to
Decline.
decline.
Peter,
Yep.
and I am not in favor of that as well.
Okay, well, there's a recommendation here, a recommended decline of the Diesel Emission Reduction Act grant awarded for New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. That's gonna be the motion if we decide to go that way.
Yes.
and so a yes
Okay.
vote would be to decline the grant,
Exactly.
just to be crystal clear.
Somebody wanna make a motion?
I'll make that motion that we decline the vehicle grant.
Decline the Diesel Emission Reduction Act grant from the state of from New
Correct.
Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. Do you have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kelly. Is there any discussion on this? Obviously that Adam has decided that maybe it's not the best time.
Well, I think he said in his memo that he doesn't have necessarily, there's not enough data out there for the long-term viability
Right.
at this point.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah.
So. Okay, there's a motion on the floor to recommend declining the Diesel Emission Reduction Act grant. Was motioned by Mark, seconded by Kelly. Mark, how do you vote?
Yes, sir.
Jim?
Yes.
Yes.
Myself, say yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes. All right, we'll move on to that. Next.
At your next page, you have a memo from Danielle about the vote at your last meeting regarding the cruisers. Danielle can explain.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So at the last meeting, we discussed what funds were available in the police special detail revolving fund. At the time, I had just given projections kind of from the floor here. I went back and took a look, wanted to make sure I had analyzed the data before I had a real true number to see what we looked at. And after I took a look, I actually realized that the appropriation that the chief had in the budget more than covers the vehicles and their outfitting costs as it stands. What happened was when we had the budgeted number in there, it was based on a market value, but we had originally gone with the state bid, which was below market value. In the end, state bid vendor backed out because they can't get those vehicles at that price, and the higher priced vehicles are actually within the market budget. So in addition to the operating budget being able to cover the full expense, there was a question about the outfitting of the vehicles, or upfitting as we sometimes call it. In this case, it currently is anticipated to be within that budget as well, with there being $780 left in the budget unspent at the end of the process. If there's a couple changes to that outfitting cost, the chief and I predict it could be somewhere between maybe $800 and $1,200 grand total above budget. So we would recommend, instead of taking a whole vehicle out of that fund, charging any overages, if there are any, to that fund. And the reason being, when I had given you the figures originally, I had misremembered the amount of the untouchable, that seed money that we call it. So that is actually around $45,000. And so if we were to purchase a whole vehicle, you'd be left with only about $10,000 in the fund. So rather than draining the fund to pay for a vehicle that we have in the budget, I think it would be a better choice to move forward with the budget, and then if there's anything over that comes up, we could go to that fund.
Because I think the reason we even recommended going to that fund is because we thought we were going to be short.
Right.
Yes.
So if we're not going to be short, then I don't see any reason to do it. We're in
And we
budget.
did receive the written quotes, and we did put that information into the system, and it confirmed our numbers align, that it is within budget.
Good, and we'll
Great.
stay with that. Take a motion.
I'll move that we override the September 26th vote and authorize the finance director to charge the overages related to the purchase and outfitting of the 2022 police cruisers to the police special detail revolving fund.
Second.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Carlos. Any discussion? Mark?
Yes, sir.
Jim?
Yes.
Mia, yes.
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 Motion passes.
Thank you.
And your next page, you've got the MS 535, which is the financial report of the town for the year ending December 31st, 2021. And Danielle can walk you through that.
The 535 form is the form in which the DRA compares what was budgeted to what actually occurred throughout the year. So it says, after all the audits been complete, these are the figures we have. The town did underspend the appropriations by about $1.3 million. That's, again, a moving target, and that has to do with either projects that couldn't be completed or vacancies throughout different departments and wages and the associated benefits to those pieces. Additionally, we had encumbered funds at the end of the year, and those go into the assigned fund balance category on the form. The general fund revenues came in about 15% over what was originally projected, so that number's about $913,000. Just a side note, when you see the information on the MS 434, they compare to the revised revenues, and so it's slightly below the revised revenue projections that we had prepared in the late fall last year. So it's over our original, but under our revised. So what that comes out to is an unadjusted fund balance figure of about $8.8 million. And that figure, that 8.8, does not count the funds that were voted at this year's amount. So this year at town meeting, we had voted on $865,000 to be used from unassigned fund balance across the various warrant articles. So that would come out of that 8.8. Also, at this time of year, I also informed the board about outstanding receivables that are part of the calculation for unassigned fund balance. Those receivables that are due to the town account for about $1.6 million out of that. So
Out of it or to it?
out of it. Eventually, they'll be collected, but the
Because
number as it's
receivables are-
represented right now includes those receivables that we don't necessarily have. So that gives an adjusted figure of about 6.3 million. But when we're talking about tax rate, we look at a slightly different number there. So that's the overview of where things ended for 2021.
What did the value come out as? Was it, we had a 0.5%, we had thought about a 0.5%.
Came out to, I'm going off memory, 0.68% versus 0.5%.
Okay.
So slightly over what we had, and once we get through the MS 535 and the 434 tonight, we do have some draft tax rate numbers to go over with you.
Good. Anybody got any questions on this?
I'll make a motion to approve the MS 535 as prepared by the town's auditing firm.
Second.
Motion by Kelly, seconded by Jim to approve the MS 535. Roll call vote. Mark?
Yes, sir.
Jim?
Yes.
Myself, yes.
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 Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The form is in your boardroom for signature of the board. The next one is actually the one that we added to your packet that we sent out this afternoon. This is the 434. So this is the town's revised revenue estimates. Now that we have gotten 9 months into the year, DRA asks us to review all those revenues and let them know where we think we're going to land by the end of the year. The cover page gives you some of the highlights. So motor vehicles are slightly up, about 150,000 we think by the end of the year. We received those Primex premium refunds that the board had voted on in the summer. That's about 22,000. We have some increased revenue from departments, about 75,000 total across the various groups. Increased bank interest. I'm very happy to see that number go back up because that's closer to where we usually were, but the last couple of years we were way down in the single digits. And the reduced interest on property tax, so on the plus side, people are paying their taxes more promptly, but we're collecting less interest there. And then reduced grant revenue, that 125,000, that's essentially represented by the state bridge aid, the project that Adam is working on for the, that would be eligible for that grant. He said that the design phase is still in process. They had to do some geotechnical testing. So we're not anticipating those funds in this year. Instead, it will be once the project design is complete and accepted by DOT, that those funds would be dispersed, so likely 2023. So all in
Those
all,
funds are budgeted though, right, in this year's budget?
We did.
part of them, yes.
The funds for the project are, as well as we budgeted the revenue coming in.
Yeah.
So what he would do is encumber the funds, the expenses at the end of the year, and then we would see the
Right.
revenue come over next year.
Yeah, he indicated only part has been charged so far because they hit that snag and now they have to wait for some of those other pieces to come into place before they can make additional payments.
Okay.
So all in all, what we're seeing is our revenue totals with the various swings actually only net to about a $76,000 increase. So on the plus side, we are getting much more accurate in how we're projecting those revenues during the budget process. But on the downside, we don't have any big swing that we could use to our advantage during tax rate setting. So we are in the positive, in the right direction, but that gets submitted to DRA as the last piece before we can set our tax rate. So there's no motion on that one. Are there any questions about it?
No, I think it's explained pretty well. Anybody got any questions? No. Okay, Mark, you got any questions?
Nope, all set.
Okay.
Very pleased the way it turned out.
Anybody have any new business to bring up? How about, maybe, Jack, you might have some updates on what's going on over at the other project, how that's coming along at the mill? We keep hearing people talking about it all the time. I was just wondering if you heard anything.
I would have to, I know that Ed Hunter, who's working as our per diem building inspector, he's had a meeting over there, so I can work with him and Joanne and get a better update. I know he's been busy at that project as well as the Bog Road project, and I shared an email with members that we'll be putting out of there, because there are affordable units over there that they're doing a housing lottery for that one. So yeah, I can get you an update on where they are.
I'm sure as we're going around town, people ask us what's going on, how's it going, stuff
Yep.
like that.
Yeah.
Be nice to have a little update
Okay.
that could help
Yep.
answer. Is there nothing on the police station?
No.
Kelly, you're still working on the draft policies?
Trying, yeah.
We might have some more. We did HR training this week.
Yeah.
So we've got
We have a couple more
some more stuff to add
suggestions.
to it.
Has the meeting been set for the pedestrian bridge?
I think we're just waiting to find an open Tuesday. The budget, having the budget nights on the 18th and the 25th make it a little bit difficult, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be meeting
But
here
we
soon.
did decide on Tuesday evening.
Yes. Yep.
So stay away from the other busy nights.
And according to this, the only piece of equipment out is ambulance 2.
There was one other one that I must not have printed. There is I don't think I selected that cell when I did print. Let me see, I know there's a DPW. Number 337, a 6-wheel truck is at Donovan Equipment for a leaf spring.
Okay. Anybody got anything else?
Peter,
Yes, Mark?
the new ambulance is in. It's going to be equipped next week and expected to go in soon as everything is completed on it.
Yeah, I think we got an email on that.
Saw it tonight, pretty snazzy
We
looking.
did.
Yeah. Different type of ambulance though, than what we've been getting.
Yeah.
More room in there.
Yeah, so. That's good. Anybody got anything else?
Do you want to, I know we have under old business, you have, it's not in your packet, but there's still the ongoing discussion about the fund balance policy. I also we have most of the pieces of the puzzle. We do have a draft tax rate of where Danielle and I think it would be, and I'd like to hand that out. And we can talk about that briefly, because I know that Vice Chairman Boyer had some questions in regards to the fund balance policy.
Thank you.
Mark, I apologize, we didn't get some of these numbers till late this afternoon, so I will try and explain verbally where we are.
Okay.
But basically, you'll see all the way on the right is the tax rate from last year. In the town side, it was $8.30, and I'll just remind the board that at tax rate setting, $1 million was used to reduce the tax rate. So that reduced it by about 58 cents at that time. We're looking right now at, with the revised revenues and everything in, that the town tax rate would go up to $9.87 with no use of fund balance. And then you can see our estimates, the county has gone up a bit, local school has gone up, and then the legislature made a change to the state education this year to reduce that portion. But right now, our estimate is the tax rate is somewhere around $27 if no fund balance is used.
Didn't we have a discussion last year about using more of the fund balance, but we didn't want to do it, we wanted to do it more in a step type of way?
I think that's come up in the last couple of meetings as Danielle has recommended to you to adjust your goal or your target of 8% to closer to 2 months worth of operating general budget of 16.7%. To move in that direction is to use less of the fund balance. I think what this highlights, this big jump highlights a little bit how the use of fund balance last year and the use of fund balance the year before, both COVID years and appropriate in those years, it kind of has hidden that as things have grown over time. So now you have kind of that big jump on the town side.
Well, here it's saying the maximum recommended is 17. You're recommended 14?
No, I'm recommending 16.7%.
16.7.
That is the GFOA recommendation that they actually describe in the text paragraph above that box. The maximum recommended from DRA is an old figure, and that's a recommendation, but DRA says, please note that the actual recommendation is this text box. So that recommendation is really a range, and municipalities can go above it and are encouraged to review their specific calculations before they fall into the guidelines, because these ballpark ranges that DRA has set captures every community, whether you have 300 people or a city that has, 100,000 people. So it's kind of a really wide range to try and capture all 234 communities.
And that current amount retained that's what we anticipate you'll have for fund balance when we do actually sit down with DRA to set the tax rate, that $7,974,270, which is about 14%.
Yeah. And that figure comes from that 8.8 million that you saw in the MS 535 early this evening, subtracting out the 865,000 that was voted at town meeting. So that's where they would be coming up with that 7.9. And then, as we know, there's not all of it is liquid cash.
You're talking about a $2.18 increase right now on the tax rate,
That's where it is.
without fund balance.
Without fund balance and based on our calculations, that's where it is right now.
Yeah.
So I guess on the fund balance retention sheet, the current amount retained, the 14.3%, that's kind of what I was getting at with making the change to the actual policy, is we wouldn't even hit that this year if we used nothing.
Yeah, if you use
Recommended.
nothing, you would be at 14.3. Yep, you're correct.
And we wouldn't have hit it in the last couple, if we hadn't used it in the last couple years, we might have hit it. But it's a goal to aspire to get to that, minimum best practice.
Right. I wish I had my notes from the last time we talked about this. What was it last year? What percentage did we end at? Do you know?
I have that.
I didn't grab my other book.
So last year, after the use of $1 million, you were at 14.69%, which was $7.6 million. Again, you're at a lower percentage now because those operating expenses have gone up.
Right.
And those operating expenses that you see above there, the 55.8 million, that encompasses the town's appropriation as well as those other entities, the school, the county, the state, but it does not include sewer operations.
Sewer?
Right.
So just to clarify, the state education fund was reduced?
Yes. So you'll see on that first page, 1 of 3.
Right.
Last year, the state education tax was $2.03. Again, it had a different valuation. And this year, it's dropped down to $1.46. So last year, we collected about $3.3 million for state education. This year, we're collecting 2.4. But again, that all of those funds stay local. We collect them, they're the state portion, but they all remain here.
So the state dropped their rate by 63 cents?
57.
I'm sorry.
Yep, they
Yeah,
dropped it by
57, right.
Yep, 57 cents. The county went up a little bit, and then you see the school, the local, and the town.
Well, they did, you just shifted onto the town
Right,
side.
yeah. That's what they do. They tell everybody they gave them a break.
state cut their taxes, but raised it locally is what they
Right.
do. Yeah,
Right.
we're very happy for
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yep.
So what are you looking for us to do tonight on this?
I think your next meeting is gonna be the budget presentation on the 18th. There's only, I think, one outstanding item that needs to be entered into the tax rate setting portal. One of the precincts has to get in their end of the year information, but at that point, we should be entered into the queue for tax rate setting. So I guess our goal would be to get ready for tax rate setting on Monday, the 24th,
18th, Scott said.
on the 18th? Okay, so.
In
what we
order to
might-
get the tax bills out early December, like December 5th, we'd have to have a tax rate approved by the board at the 18th.
So that would be, we
Just
could.
a couple weeks.
Yep, a couple weeks.
But we were hoping by getting the draft numbers, we could get a better idea of if there's anything you want us to test with the figures to try and adjust or something to try and get towards, because we'd hope to bring you that final rate or the final options that you could look at on the 18th.
Is the 18th meeting a 6 o'clock meeting?
Yes, it is.
Okay. But we're not with the budget committee first? Are they all gonna be able to get there at 6?
Yes.
Yes, they've been holding all their meetings at 6.
All right.
So last year we used, how much again? Sorry, $1 million?
So last year on the ballot, there was $350,000 from fund balance that the voters approved. But at tax rate setting, $1 million was used to reduce taxes.
Didn't we have 3 scenarios that we looked at the time?
We had, 5 different scenarios
Yeah,
at the
5
time.
different, that's right.
Yeah.
5 different scenarios.
Yeah, to try and,
And we picked the one in the middle, I think, if I remember right.
I think you picked the one that gave us, I think it was an overall no
level
change to the
tax
tax rate. The
Total
the
across
total
entities.
tax rate. So the town went up a little bit, but I think the local education went down a little bit last year, if I remember correctly. So 2482, you've had a tax rate of $24.82 per thousand in 2020 as well as 2021.
I mean, I think we're going to have to put forth some sort of increase. I mean, this is
Well, can we
a
split
bit,
it maybe? Look
but
at what kind of
can
money
we
we can
use
split the
something?
increase?
so,
I don't think it would be,
yeah. I mean,
like Derek
last
said, we're
year,
hiding that, not hiding it, but we're trying to offset it. And then if we do have a year where we can't use anything, it's gonna be a huge,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be, it is, and that's,
gonna make a
it's
huge
kind of like
difference.
that wave, you put off that increase, what you.
but
Yeah.
right now,
yeah, I
we're
think
talking,
that's what we've done over the last couple of years, and I believe that's why the discussion, as Chairman Georgianis had kind of hinted towards earlier, was to step down in fund balance use a little bit. You know, instead of using, 1.3 million total, maybe do a little less each year to kind of wean people off of it, as well as hopefully increase the fund balance for the policy goal as well.
but I'm looking right now, we're not even at, our retained amount is not even gonna be as much as where we ended last year. So we're already at a deficit in what we're retaining in fund balance.
Not in amount, in percentage.
In percentage, yes.
In percentage, because the general fund operating expenses for the town and the 3 entities that we collect for
Yeah.
has gone up.
Unfortunately, kind of what happens is just in the general scope of things, as the operating budget increases from 4 different entities having their figures, then the town using the fund balance to offset the town side, it's kind of almost absorbing the budget increases from those other entities into the town's portion. So we keep bringing that down to level off the tax rate, but it's getting to a point where almost as those appropriations grow, we can't necessarily keep up with offsetting everybody else's budget increases as well as our own that are needed through.
I hear you, but
regular
if we're,
growth.
if we're trying to set a policy that has a percentage attached to it, that doesn't really matter, right? If we're gonna write down on paper that we wanna be at 15% overall, that fluctuation, like I said, is still putting us under if we make a change to 16.8, I think is what.
Mhm. Yeah, and
So
I
we're already
think,
behind the ball then.
I think it would be, perhaps a good practice to indicate in the policy what the goal is, or maybe adopt and, kind of have a motion there that we're gonna work towards a set goal. But as far as the fund balance use, as Derek indicated last year, and even the year prior, we have that history that we looked at last meeting where fund balance, it had been used kind of very sparingly, and the earlier part, 10 years ago, and it started increasing on special projects when, at the time, we thought the fund balance was maybe a little higher than we had wanted. And then it kind of became, something that we were talking about with COVID, and kind of started to grow between the projects and COVID and compounded a bit. So I can pull up that unassigned fund balance history too, if you'd like to review that or have any questions
No,
on
I
it.
guess I'm just trying to figure out what's reasonable and attainable for us this year.
Mhm.
So if we're at 7 million, we're already 1.5-ish million under where we want to be. We're talking $1.57 increase to the tax rate. So how can we balance that if all, like, what is $1 million gonna do?
Great.
So $1 million,
It's about 57 cents.
I think it's 57 cents.
So then we're looking at $1 increase to the
Yeah,
tax
and
rate.
the other thing I brought, again, we're not looking for a decision tonight, but we did want to bring this. This is where it sits right now,
That's 6.
and just to show you what that tax rate, what that impact would have on, the average assessment and the median assessment, just so you kind of see all the way over in the right-hand column, you see that $2.18 increase and what that would mean to a tax bill.
So if you had, I see what you're saying.
Right now, if you do nothing and it still comes in at $27, it's about a $600 increase on the average assessment.
And that's here as is, right?
Yes, yep, that's as is. And I'd be happy to share any of these spreadsheets if you want to just kind of, I want to
Play with it, yeah.
I want to lock some items
Yep.
on what we have, but yeah, of, what you can kind of play with a little bit.
But I also wonder if we, because I think when we just do the level, just tax reduction versus putting it into projects, I'm in my head trying to weigh out the difference between letting voters vote on using that money towards something, but then it's really, then they get nothing if they vote it down, First, then they're paying out of pocket for it, so it's like, you can reduce the tax rate through projects, or do you just reduce the tax rate?
And I think that's why over the past years, we've recommended one-time projects. So it's not something that's, you're gonna see come back, there've been, this year we had the air curtain burner, we had the sprinklers and ventilation. Those are projects that aren't gonna come back the next couple of years, so.
So maybe we try to do a combination at a certain amount? I don't know. I have to think about it a little more.
Yeah, maybe a stupid question, but the county and local education, do they have the ability to adjust their rates as well, like we're doing?
So the school they get to the end of their financial year. So they got the end of fiscal year '22 on June 30th of this year. They get their financials back and they see how much fund balance they have. They are allowed to keep a percentage because they did pass that portion. But they returned $2.5 million to reduce taxes. It was basically, you know, that 2.5. So they returned that already. In terms of the county, I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not certain if the county is allowed to carry any type of fund balance or if it all gets returned. I don't know the answer to that. We can research that. But that gets a portion out over all the communities within Hillsborough County based on assessed, percentage of assessed value.
What did we use last year? How many dollars did we use on the unassigned fund balance for projects?
$350,000 in 2021, plus the $1 million at tax rate. In 2020,
No, just special projects.
okay, so 350
Yeah,
in 21, 825,000 in 20, 1.5 million in 2019, and 975,000 in 2018. Those are all just the special projects. So between 2018 and 2022 in special projects alone has been 4.5 million.
Derek, the portion that was given from the school, that's not included in this number, right? Or is it this current 2021 tax rate?
Yeah, so that is figured into, on page 2 of 3, that is figured into the net local school appropriation. So that lives in there.
Yeah.
They're not, many times, it's worded that they're returning funds to reduce taxes. What they're really doing is they've reduced how much they're going to collect in the upcoming tax year. So that 2.5 basically almost gets carried forward and you just collect that much less. So it does have an impact. It lowers their portion of the tax rate,
Right.
but we're just collecting less.
Right. So the 14.4 that's there already has that factor
Okay,
there.
thank you.
Yes.
That's what I was asking.
and their $14.44 tax rate, which is an increase of $1.11, is also figured in that number, right?
Yes.
Right, yes, if that 2.5 wasn't there, that would be a higher figure on that, on page 1.
So with us and the school, town and school, it's about $2.69. That's actually controlled by the voters.
I would say it is controlled by the voters, and the only thing I would say is that 2021 tax rate was artificially low because of the use of fund balance last year.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just saying that,
Yes, those two items. Yep.
right,
Yep.
Yeah, there's no changes that we can make for the other two.
And I'd argue that the state education, that's all retained locally as well, so, they don't,
Yeah, we send that to the school, not to the state.
not to the state.
yeah, but that's just like taking it out of one pocket and putting it in the other. So if you don't take the 1333, but now you want 1444, so.
I know personally I'd like to see us get to like $1 if we could get 57 cents taken out,
How much?
That's $1 million.
$1 million.
Me too.
But I still want to see all of the numbers and,
Well, if you use $1 million, they're not gonna be able to use anything for special projects, that's for sure. If you do another $1 million,
No, yeah, no, absolutely, if you,
or do we split it up and use half for special projects, half for office? I don't know what the answer is right now. I want to look
well, we only
at
did,
what we have for
spent
special
300 in
projects.
special projects last year. That's why I asked.
Yeah,
Is
350.
there anything that you've seen yet coming through that would be, besides the capital reserve, that would be go on as a special warrant article? That
You mean the
would
CIP projects
Yeah.
that we're looking at?
I know that you'll probably see a request from the library trustees for a bond. That's a completely separate one, but other than that, nothing else hits.
Most of them are vehicles.
Most of them are vehicles.
Pool projects next year?
Yes, it was.
Yes,
Yep.
the following year,
Following year.
24.
And how much time do we have to think about what we want to do?
So if we're gonna get tax bills out when we would like to, especially because, again, the school is, we have to turn over funds to them, we would probably have to either have a special meeting or have you set the tax rate on October 18th, which allows the assessor to generate the tax warrant, which you would do on your meeting on the 24th. So I think you've got a couple of weeks where we can provide you information. We'd be happy to sit with you individually, answer any questions you might have, or run through some different scenarios. Alternatively, if you'd like to call an additional meeting just to talk about this, we could do that as well. So I think we can be pretty flexible and provide you the information. We just wanted to get this to you as soon as possible so it's on your radar.
Yeah, the changes that we're expecting to the draft at this point is really minimal. It's highlighted there at the top. The DRA will give us the final figures for meals and rooms tax. So what's in there now is the number the state budgeted, but if there's any change to that, we'll let you know.
And that was a reduction this year. We're getting less money from that too, right?
No, meals and rooms.
You're
he
getting
reduced the
you're getting
rate.
you're getting a smaller percentage, but then they have an additional distribution that they added. So they changed the law to reduce the distribution percentage, but then they have an add-on, so the actual
Like a one-time
money.
add-on.
Yeah, one-time add-on. So the actual money that we budgeted, we feel pretty confident in, but if they had different receipts than what they were predicting, that will impact what we actually received.
Because this page 1 says that NHDRA may adjust meals and rooms distribution in final highway block grant.
Yes.
The highway block grant, we're pretty confident in because that is built into the budget. It's a lot easier than doing it for next year when the state budget isn't set. Meals and rooms, we don't expect a lot of change on the revenues.
No, I think that even if the revenues were to swing, you know, it may only be a couple $100,000, which would only be a few pennies, really.
So Kelly, what is your, so we're all on the page thinking the same way. What is your objective? I would ask that of everybody, so we can all be looking.
Well, I think that we're looking from the town side of $1.57 of an increase.
Right.
And I would just like to see if we can lower that a bit. I think a gradual increase is better than hitting everyone with that $1.57 at once. So if we can offset that, that would be great. But I'm still trying to look at the amount of money that we have in our fund balance and realizing that's going to take us even further away from where we'd like to be.
What is it, what is our payouts, our payables, of that 2-month range that you were talking about? What do we pay, $500,000 a month, or $1 million a month, $2 million a month?
Are you asking in terms of the 16.7% that's recommended, or how much we actually pay? Because those are completely different numbers. The
But I
school
thought you were
for-
tying into them when you said you want to have at least 2 months' worth of
Yes.
funds in the unreserved fund balance.
Right, so what that is 2 months worth of the total operating expenditures, because we have to distribute to everybody else.
Right.
So that number would be the 16.7%, which is calculated to, about
It's about 9.4.
9.4 million at this point.
For 2 months.
Yes.
Yep.
Do you know if most towns are at that rate?
It depends on the town. It varies greatly from, their operating expenses. Towns of this size, they're going in this direction. That's definitely something that we talk about at the, association meetings or on the listserv, where towns are trying to go in a direction. We could look up some of the other tax rates to see where they're actually sitting,
Yeah,
but
we can see what other towns did last year. This is, again, these guidelines changed in, when was it 2011?
2011.
And then the best fund, or the best practices came out from GFOA in 2015, so
Yeah.
these are,
Yeah, so it's been quite a few years since they've made these changes, but where we haven't updated our specific policy in Goffstown since it was adopted, we definitely wanted to review that. I think it was adopted in 2007.
yes. Yep.
Well, I think that we're looking at the short term or the long term. That's the way you're looking at this. From my, short term, yeah, you can do a fix by throwing a bunch of money at it. But then next year, it's gonna go up again because you got more firefighters coming into the off grant, or we're paying a larger percentage, am I right? Or is that 25?
You are losing the 35% revenue for the four that were in this year's budget. The 2021,
The
Yeah,
2021 grant is still 100% funded. So
for the
we have-
full life of the
For
grant.
the full life of the grant, but yes, that 2019 grant, that we will not be budgeting for the revenues. We've always budgeted for the appropriation, but you will lose that revenue, and the taxpayers or some other revenue would have to make up for that.
Plus the other projects that we all want to get done, whether it's the pool, the library, the police department. I mean, in the long range, you look at some big time dollars.
Yeah.
And if you try to use the unreserved fund balance, like Kelly's saying, and not getting up to where you want to be, it's just going to exacerbate the problem. It's going to, 3 years from now, if you can't use $1 million out of it, it's really going to hit your tax rate.
That's the problem.
Yeah, looking at the total fund balance used, that chart we gave you last time, between, 2012, nothing was used that we could see. 2013, about 800. And then it gets conservative, 500,000, 200,000, 500,000 over the next few years. And then in 2018 is where it really picks up. It starts hitting $1 million, $1.5 million, basically every year.
Wasn't that the road plan?
2018
Yeah, I think-
and 19
I
there
think-
was
And when we
addition
wrote
to
the
road
article,
plan.
we said it was going to be incorporated into the budget.
Yep, I
Yes.
think the increase, and then the increase moved over to the default, yep.
But then
but
by each subsequent use of fund balance, it never actually hit the budget for those last 5 years or so total, when you look at that incline.
Yeah, because I remember we did that 1.5 million that year.
Personally, I'm a little afraid we're getting to the point that we're gonna be asked to bring forward a budget that's lower than default, which is absolutely crazy. But I feel like we're starting to get there by having that tax rate lower for 4 or 5 years running. So
But what
it's
are you
a difficult
hearing
situation.
About the unreserved fund balance, I mean, talking to Joe and other people, they're saying that you gotta get rid of it, spend it. I said, well, you can't spend it. Well, you got too much in it, so, and he's on the budget committee. They said anything over there on the budget committee about, yeah?
No.
Not yet, we haven't gotten into the town budget yet.
I mean, I think people can say spend it, but the reality is we're holding the funds to cover the cost for 2
You can't
months.
spend it.
Right.
There's a reason for it.
And again, one of the biggest reasons is in case of some type of emergency or a reduction in state or federal revenue, when all of a sudden, our budget is projected on a lot of different revenues, not just tax. So if all of a sudden one of those revenue streams
Right.
Tries that. Mark, did you
up.
want to say something? Mark?
No, I just been listening, Pete.
Okay.
I don't want to, kind of like, I'm in general consensus of what all the other board members have said. I don't want to put us in a state of shock. I'd like to make some adjustments to the budget, but where I think we have to sit and look at it to see what we can do to make some adjustments, that's all.
Okay. Anybody else? I mean, we could beat this all night.
Could we get some projections with, I mean, this is with nothing offsetting.
Correct.
Can we do with $500,000?
Yeah, we can
Let's say,
give,
don't we
And
have
we
that right
said, we
now?
guessed $1 million was about, sure, if you want.
That'd be helpful.
If everyone
I'm
else
just saying, I
doesn't
know we
mind.
have our laptops here, and
and we've got.
just to give you a ballpark.
That's fine with me if you guys don't mind.
And then we can follow this up, but,
Let's do 500, 750, and 1 million. Okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
If it's that, if,
It's a
just-
shared document, so if you're in.
I just want to see, and I am kind of, the more I'm thinking about this, in line with Danielle and putting what our goal is in the policy.
You can see what's going on and stop cooking.
that could change.
It
Policy.
could, but it doesn't
Every time,
restrict
every year.
us. So,
That's why
so,
I'm saying, you do a policy that restricts you.
so just really rough, so it's for conversation's sake, 500,000, every 500,000 is approximately 28 cents.
Jesus.
So a million is 50, it's actually 57, but again, rounding. 750 would be in between that, be 14 cents, so it would be 42 cents. So again, I don't know if you want to and we can do this and provide it to you, if you want to target a rate and kind of figure out what that number is and where that leaves you percentage-wise, we can do that.
I mean, every single jurisdiction on this chart has increases, and we've taken it upon ourselves the responsibility to try to assist our taxpayers where we can. So, I mean, I think we obviously have to put forward some sort of increase, but it's just really the amount and how much it impacts the percentage of our fund balance.
Yes.
So can you give me those numbers again, please?
So 500,000 would be a reduction of 28 cents on the town. A million would be a reduction of 100, I'm sorry, not 100, 57.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And 750 would be about 42.
And it will continue to change at that same rate.
If we don't tap into the fund, how long would it take to get us, how long would you estimate it would take us to get up to the number you want?
It would, if we weren't using it at all for tax rate setting or for projects going forward,
Yeah.
I'd say it'd take about 2 years, maybe. If we don't use it for any projects, it may only be just next year.
Do you do this?
So
But it
this
depends
year,
on what
What's
those
that?
appropriations
rates.
go up for all those other
So if we use
entities.
this much,
It's a
that's
moving
how much.
target.
I just want
So,
to ballpark.
Yeah, because that's why I'm
Our
thinking between
portion.
1 and
Our
2
portion,
years,
yeah.
because if their appropriations are going up, so instead of 55,
That'd be $9.
million, instead it's 58 million,
Oh, I'm just
because
doing
the
the
school had a
municipal
little
total.
increase, the town, the county,
So I bring
state.
it down to
Well, now all of a sudden
945.
that percentage shifts and we have
I
to
would say
do a little bit
750.
more to catch up. So I think realistically,
But like you said, you said.
2 years to solidly get there.
No, municipal.
But we might be able to
987.
use some in that second year,
850.
once we see the figures.
How'd you get that?
987.
And we have
Sorry.
that
No, that's
other
right.
spreadsheet too for the unassigned fund balance to give you percentage ideas.
959 versus 987 total.
Well, I'd like to see those numbers. What 500,000 does, 750, a million. What does that look like?
I did,
Well, I'm just doing it.
All
I
right,
just
okay,
did, I just did the 750, which
Okay.
was 42 cents off of 987, came up to 945,
I'm
so.
sorry, your 750 is what?
If you did the
42?
750
42?
minus 42, this is all
Yeah.
approximate.
Yeah,
Off of the 987, which is the municipal rate,
yeah,
you come up with 945.
$9.45.
yeah.
Which would be about
This would be
$26.58
$9.
on the total rate instead of
30 cents.
27.
So for our tax rate, 500 would be $9.59. 750 would be 945,
Right.
and a million would be $9.30.
What was the half a million, Kelly?
$9.59.
59?
Yep.
750, sorry.
750 was 945,
Thank you.
and the million was
It's not updated on
930.
this side
Yeah, 950.
with the yellow.
I used to think we were pretty flush until you come up and you start trying to raise that bottom line.
And then Danielle, could you do some quick math for me?
I've got it built into the
Oh,
spreadsheet.
perfect. So if we used $750,000 from unassigned fund balance, what would that put our percentage at?
So that would put it at about, I believe, 7.2 million at about 12.9%.
Peter, how much time did we have to get to the number that we need to get to? Have we mentioned a month, year, or date time yet on that?
10/18, so we need to have it by, right?
Selectman Lemay, are you asking the draft fund balance policy, the recommended percentage that Danielle and I have recommended, what the target
Yeah.
date? I don't think that was in the document, but admittedly, I mean, at this point, you can't make that number. It has to be a target in the future. Right now, if you use nothing, you're at 14%. And again, it's your policy, you're gonna adopt it, and if you were to adopt lower than that recommended percentage, we would bring it back to you next fall and say, no, we still recommend that you work towards 2 months of 16.7% and up to 18%, so.
Personally, I would like to see the policy revised to move forward, to get more in line with best practice, but with the discussion that comes up with budget as we get into that season and public hearings and deliberative session, part of what we have traditionally shown the voters is where the fund balance is and where the select board target is. I don't feel comfortable bringing forward a select board target of 8%, knowing that it is so significantly outdated, and that's where the voters are looking at it saying, well, why are we holding 14 then? Well, because really, we need to update our target. So if we can update the policy prior to then, that would be, I think, my
I mean, I'm
preference.
fine saying that that's our goal, and we're working towards that. But I don't wanna we won't use any fund balance unless we're at this amount or over this amount. I don't wanna do that.
I agree. I don't like locking myself into it. Because even then,
So how does Peter,
what?
how does the board feel about not doing anything?
I think I'm not sure if that's the right answer though, because like, you don't want to go in with an old, stating an old policy that says 8%, and we're trying to push it to 16. You know,
Well, if we do nothing and we make the statement that we're looking for the 16 and we're making our way towards it, this is one way we have to get there. Is that something that's doable?
Do you mean do nothing as not put any money towards the tax rate?
no, I think it's a change.
No, that's what he means.
Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about changing the policy?
I'm talking about not doing anything and leaving the tax rate where it'll be set and trying to get to the goal of that 16.4, whatever that percentage number is.
Yeah, you can do that. That tax rate's gonna be $27.
Yeah, I know.
It's a
I
$2
wrote the numbers down, Peter.
$2.18 increase.
As you said, and I'll say it again, that's the price of doing business.
I mean, I personally don't want to hit people with that much of an increase,
Yeah,
but I do agree that
I
we
don't
need
either.
to increase. We
Is
have
that
to.
historically a large increase?
Historically, a large increase at
Tax rate.
tax rate setting?
We would have to, we'd have to research
We'd have to
that.
research. I know the last 2 years were the exact same rate,
Yeah.
21
20
and
and
20. And in 19, there was only, 19 to 20 was just a slight increase.
Yeah, it's been
So
very,
it's
it's
been
been
a
a very low
while
increase
since-
for 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
We can definitely get you that,
Yeah.
and what we'll try and do is do it off the same, I guess, rate, the same, assessment. Because the one thing that's complicated with looking back in history at tax rate, in 2018, there was a reval, so the year before that, homes were undervalued at that point, so.
So it's skewed, it's not apples to apples.
There is a way to back into it by looking at what the, whether you're looking at the average value, therefore you're looking at what the average tax bill is.
Right.
That's really hard for most people to grasp.
It is.
Yeah.
Very hard.
And that's part of why we tried to put that average and median on that sheet, so you can see kind of the impact of the tax bill.
For a lot of
You
people.
know, theoretically, a $500 or $500,000 use of fund balance would cut that impact in about half. So instead of a $600, it's a $300 kind of average when we're looking at the medians and an average household.
I'm still under the impression, or under the theory that we should just step it down. We did $1 million, go to 750, the future years, maybe get it down to 500, to ease the burden of the whole thing at once I think that's a big, big step.
I mean, we're seeing unprecedented increases in everything that culminate our budget, so I agree with that. I'm also sort of inclined to do even less, but I'm not quite sure that that's the right answer.
I agree, Kelly, but 3 years in a row now, people have seen small increases. We've kind of become accustomed to that, so we need to keep that in mind. If we come out with something that's noticeably different, they're gonna say, wait a minute.
Yeah, but there's increases in every other thing.
Oh, I get it.
But that's a
Oh, I
problem,
understand.
Jim.
I know.
But we can't even, right now, we can't even maintain getting close to what we were able
Yeah.
to do last year. And we can't keep that up year over year, so how do we
I
split?
understand that, but,
Yeah.
I know,
the
I know.
guy sitting at home is another increase.
It-
And
it's,
I don't know that
And
we
I-
do
I-
anything about it, but
Yeah.
that's,
Well, the electric increase, fuel, gasoline, everything's going out of sight again. It's just gonna be at the wrong time for us.
Yeah.
Really, I mean,
I just find it interesting when we have, the foot traffic into town hall to make the payments where, we had 2 years in a row where the tax rate was exactly identical and people come in yelling at us saying, my tax bill went up by $300 again, and you're like, it literally didn't, it couldn't have mathematically.
Yeah.
And so there's this perception that it's always gonna increase, and where we made such an effort to keep it low or to not increase it at all, and it's like, wow, that didn't even help because they still think it increased.
Right.
So now we're kind of backed into this corner, and it is tough because now everything else is increasing too.
all right, so let's think about this. We need to continue to think about it until we have to know by October 18th.
Yeah, that's a target date, right?
Yeah,
Yep, that's when we'll need more, and hopefully we'll be in the
Week and
queue
a
by
half,
that
right?
point. And we will share numbers with you, and like I said, if any member has questions, we can do a meeting over the computer in person and answer any questions you might have, or run scenarios.
So the 18th, are we just gonna have a meeting after the presentations? Is
Most
that what the
likely,
plan is?
yes.
Okay.
That's, again, all dependent on
why
if we
can't
are
we
in the queue.
have a meeting on the 17th, and then the budget thing on the 18th?
You
The-
could meet, the budget committee has scheduled a meeting for that night to possibly go over volunteer applications. You could absolutely meet on the 17th if you'd like.
I think we should.
I don't think we should have this discussion. I think we need to have, I don't know. What do you think? We'd have to go 2 nights in a row, that's the problem.
Yeah.
I already am, so it's okay. I'm already.
Yeah, you're gonna be at the
I'm
budget
already at all
meeting
the
too,
meetings.
on the
Yeah.
But time
17th,
is
so
slipping by quickly.
Yeah.
So,
it's at the same time, I just don't know how, if we'd be using the space, the budget committee's in here at 6
Well, you
PM on
could, you could probably
17th.
do it
I
right
don't,
after.
I don't
Right
think
after
they're
that.
gonna need a long,
Okay.
I don't think so.
I don't foresee
We
it.
can meet in the other room too. Oh, we
We
can't.
would- we'd have to, yeah.
Yeah, we have to.
I think we can make it work.
We can
That's
definitely
what
make
we
it
need to
work.
do.
It might need to be a little bit different, but if you're willing to let the chair exercise his powers to call a meeting, we can do that and just kind of, we'll tentatively schedule it.
Yeah, I would think so.
That's
I
fine.
mean, this is big thing. This is,
yeah.
Yep, okay. So that'll be on the 17th.
What date is it?
It's a
With the
Monday.
Monday?
Yes, Monday.
Yeah.
We'll aim to be around 6 o'clock. It may be after the budget committee meets.
do whatever. That'll save us.
But
from
we will
coming-
we will not put other items on the agenda.
No,
Right.
this is strictly what it's about.
Yep.
Okay.
It'll be a special
Thank you.
meeting for that.
If we need to, I mean, maybe, you
Well,
know,
we're meeting the next day, so we could do it then too.
yeah. I
You
mean, I
can't be
think
here, aren't you?
if there's a consensus,
Wait, is that the day you're out of town?
yeah, I'll change it.
Oh, okay.
What are you gonna do, fire me? I don't think so. Anything else?
No, I think
That's enough for a holiday weekend.
I was gonna say, wow,
Do we have
for a
non-public?
short meeting.
you do not
No.
have non-public now.
No public comment?
Anybody here for public comment? Seeing none? Motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Jim can have it.
Jim, motion by Collis, seconded by Jim. Mark?
Yes?
Jim?
Yes.
Me, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That'll conclude tonight's public portion of the meeting.
Yes.